I started now. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar about the public consultation for the proposal of the Nordic mFRR capacity market methodologies, which is out for public consultation right now and has been out since the beginning of June. Just a few webinar guidelines. Please, everyone, mute your microphone. During this webinar, I think everyone is muted at the moment. You are able to post questions on the chat function. If the chat function is not working, please raise your hand and then ask a question here. All questions will be answered during the Q&A sessions, and if there's something that we are not able to answer today, we will give a written answer on the NBM webpage. Also, as I said, the webinar is recorded and will be published on the Nordic Balancing Model website after this meeting. See if I can change the slide. There we go. Just a short update on the NBM roadmap. As you can see, the Nordic mFRR capacity market is still expected to go live in Q4 2023, which means a bit more than a year from now. But before that, we expect the national mFRR capacity markets to go live in around May, June 2023 for both Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, which means that we will implement rules that are almost the same as for the Nordic mFRR capacity market for those three countries. From Q2 2023, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark will also use the same platform as the Nordic mFRR capacity market will use. Okay, but the agenda for today, I will give a short introduction and a brief overview of how the Nordic mFRR capacity market design looks like, a bit about the methodologies that is out for public consultation right now. And then we have time for stakeholder questions, for all of your questions, and some closing remarks. But please ask questions in the chat, or if it's not working, just raise your hand. Thank you. Short introduction. As I said, we have sent out the proposal for the methodologies for the Nordic mFRR capacity market out for public consultation during July and August. The deadline is next Monday on the 22nd of August. The methodologies has been developed according to Article 33, 34, and 38 in Electricity Balancing Guideline. As I mentioned, the Nordic mFRR capacity market is expected to go live in Q4 2023. But before we can go live, it must be approved by the Nordic NRAs, of course. We have used already approved methodologies for the AFR capacity market as templates for the mFRR capacity market, but they are different or separate methodologies. So we will have methodologies for the AFR market that has already been approved, and for the mFRR market, which is the ones we expect to be approved next year. But they are similar, and they're using the same platform, which is called Nordic MMS, 50 Nordic MMS. Also, the allocation between bidding zones will be done according to Article 41 in EBGL, and the methodologies that has already been approved according to Article 41 will be used, and nothing has changed in that methodologies. It applies for both the mFRR and the AFR market, so nothing will change in that methodology. A bit about the design for the Nordic mFRR capacity market. As I said, it is similar to the AFR capacity market, which means that the general rules for the mFRR capacity markets will be the same for the AFR or the mFRR capacity market. That means the daily market is procured in D-1, and the demand will be published in each directions per bidding zone, and the business process will be similar to the AFR capacity market, which some of you already know. The gate closure time and the gate opening time is the same as for the AFR capacity market. The market opens 7 days before the gate closure at midnight, and the gate closure is set to 7:30 in D-1. The gate closure is the same for the AFR and the mFRR capacity markets, so you can bid in with your capacities in both markets, but it is done at the same time. The bid requirements. The mFRR capacity markets will use, I have written hourly validity. It is hourly validity when the market starts, but when the day ahead market shift to 15 minutes, we expect that the mFRR capacity market will also change to a 15 minutes market. So the market time unit will follow the day ahead market. The mFRR capacity that are procured must also be available for energy activation, of course. What you need to be aware of is that in the methodologies that we have sent out for public consultation, we have written that the mFRR capacity must be available as direct activation in the energy activation market. So please be aware that this is a requirement in the methodologies. And of course with the same volume as you have been procured in the capacity market. The bid size is the same as for the AFR market, with a minimum bid size of 1 megawatt and a maximum bid size for divisible bids are 999, and for indivisible bids it's 15 megawatts. And it is up to you BSPs to indicate whether the bids are divisible or indivisible. Pricing is the same as for the AFR market as well. We use marginal pricing, pay as cleared. And with an hourly, I need to accept something, sorry. With an hourly clearing price, which is the maximum of the highest accepted bid price in the bidding zone or the imported bid price. The currency is euros per megawatt hour. Also, please note that the bid types supported are almost the same as for the AFR capacity market. We support block bids, exclusive bids, and exclusive bids across markets. As I said, the gate closure time is the same for the AFR market, which means that if you have the capacity that are available at both the AFR market and the mFRR market, you can have the bids as exclusive bids across markets. That means that if you are procured in the AFR market, the bid will automatically be removed from the mFRR market. And if you're not procured in the AFR market, the bid will still be available for the mFRR market. Link bids up and down are not allowed according to the EDBL at the moment, and we are not planning on doing any application to change this. So for now, the bids for up and down are not allowed. And as I said, the allocation of cross-zonal capacity will be done according to Article 41. 15 Nordic MMS, which is the capacity procurement platform, will optimize the procurement across the Nordic bidding zones, of course using all the mFRR bids. A maximum of 10% of the transmission capacity between the bidding areas can be used for reservation for capacity, but it is a maximum of 10% that is total of the AFR and the mFRR capacity market. The suggestion in the methodologies now are that the AFR procurement will be done before the mFRR market or the mFRR procurement, so the capacity will be allocated for the AFR market first, and then the rest or the leftover capacity will be allocated to the mFRR capacity market. Yeah. A bit about the methodologies for the public consultations. We have sent out 3 different methodologies. The first one is according to Article 33, which is the actual methodology for the common and harmonized rules and processes for the procurement of the mFRR capacity market. Another difference from the AFR capacity market is that the AFR is only for the Nordic LFC block, whereas the mFRR capacity market includes DK1, which means it will be for the Nordic LFC block together with DK West or the DK West LFC area. So DK1 is included in the mFRR capacity market, but not in the AFR capacity market. The second methodology is developed according to Article 34 and is the exemptions of the application to allow transfer of mFRR capacity for the Nordic LFC block, and again together with DK1. That means that you can transfer capacity within a bidding zone, but not across bidding zones. This is what we are applying for in this exemption. The last methodologies is an amendment of the already approved methodologies for the AFR market according to Article 38, where we include the mFRR in this amendment and also DK West or DK1 for this amendment as well, and only for the mFRR capacity market. We have also developed an explanatory document that explains the market a bit more in details that you can read and also comment on if you like. The amendment for the AFR methodologies was developed according to Article 38 is only one paragraph stating that we will allocate capacity to the AFR market first, and then the capacity for the mFRR market secondly. The explanation for this is explained in the explanatory document, but it is that, first of all, we expect the AFR market to be have a higher price than the mFRR market, which means that the value of allocating cross-zone capacity will be higher in the AFR market than it will in the mFRR market. If this changes in the future, or if it's not as we expect, of course we will look into it and make an amendment to the methodologies at a later point in time. Also, we expect the volumes that are being procured in these two markets to be a lot higher in the mFRR capacity market than in the AFR capacity market, which means that if we are to procure the mFRR capacity market first, the capacity will be used, all of the capacity will be used for the mFRR market, and nothing will be left for the AFR market. On the other way around, we have capacity procured in the AFR market first, there will most likely be leftover capacity for the mFRR market in the second auction. So the likelihood of having capacity for both markets are higher if we procure in the AFR market first. So that's the explanation of why we are having the AFR market before the mFRR market. Also, most countries will have some procurement outside Nordic MMS or the Nordic market. The demand for the mFRR capacity market can be divided into two. The mFRR capacity market for reserves that fulfill the requirements of the standard product by ASA, and the capacity that do not fulfill these standard requirements. And the Nordic market will only be for the standard product, which means that reserves that actually fulfill these requirements. However, most of the Nordic countries have some need also for a procurement that does not fulfill the standard product, which means that there will be some national markets besides the Nordic markets for products that do not fulfill these standard products. And that was actually my 15 minutes. Are there any questions? You can write them in the chat or ask them by raising your hand. I will give it a few minutes to see if anything pops up. Nothing? Everything is clear? Okay. I will jump to the closing remarks. If anything pops up, please just write your questions or raise your hand. As I said a few times, that we have sent out these methodologies out for public consultation during July and August, and the deadline is next Monday on the 22nd of August. We plan to submit these methodologies to the NRAs for approval in September. The NRAs will have 6 months to approve these methodologies unless they ask any questions. If they ask questions, we're giving some time to answer these questions, and then they will have 3 additional months to come up with the 2 additional months, sorry, to give their decision. So we expect to have the decision from the NRAs within 1 year or 10 months from September, so next year during the summer. As I said, we also have written this explanatory documents that hopefully gives explanations to most of the questions that might pop up during reading the methodologies. Sorry about the background noise. One of the important points that we would like to hear your opinion on is this direct activation that must be that you must be able to do in the energy activation market. That means that when you're procured in the capacity market, you must be able to do the direct activation in the energy activation market. And that means that if you are being directly activated in the last quarter, the activation will be in the last quarter, but also into the second hour, where you might not be purchased or procured as the capacity. So we would like you to think about this and comment on it in your consultation answers if you are giving us a consultation answer. Yeah, a question?
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks for this nice presentation. I have one question about the one document that recently published about the FRR dimensioning methodology, in which it states that for the procurement of the AFR and the mFRR, first we need to procure the total FRR and then procure the AFRR, and then the leftover from the total FRR subtracted by the FRR would be allocated for the mFRR. And also, of course, this should be constrained by the available cross-tunnel capacities. So is it the same as the thing that you were discussing here, or just you don't think about this total FRR required?
In the procurement, we will of course think about the total FRR requirements, but for the methodologies, this is mostly the market that are available to actually do the procurement. So it is being taken into consideration when we are developing these methodologies, yes.
Okay, so the total, because you said that if there is some 10% at most available for the ATC that is available for the both AFR and MFR, so we use the total available transmission capacities for both AFR and MFR, or is it still some part of these that might be remained unused?
Yeah. The 10% that are allocated is the maximum. So it is up to 10% that can be allocated for the AFR and MFR capacity. And it's being decided according to this Article 41, where it is stated that we look at the day ahead price from the day before. the day-ahead price from the day before, plus a markup, which is being looked into at the moment by the NRAs. And then if it makes most value to give the capacity to the day-ahead market, the 10% will not be used. But if it makes most value to allocate the capacities to these AFR and mFRR capacity markets, then it is, as I said, up to the 10%. It can be 8%, it could be 5%, it could be 3%. It depends on the day-ahead prices.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I can see we have had some questions in the chat as well. I can see if I can answer them, and if not, it will be in a written answer instead. We have one question stated that mFRR ERM for a given MTU is interfering with adjecting MTU due to ramping. What is the implication for the mFRR capacity market? Is there a requirement for delivering capacity outside the MTU? Yeah, that was what I tried to explain by direct activation. If you are being activated by a direct activation in the last 15 minutes, in an hour, you will be activated for this quarter and also the quarter in the next hour where you have not been procured as mFRR capacity, which is what we have suggested for the moment and what we would like to have your opinion on how it will interfere with your plans. I hope that's enough, or if not, please let me know. And then we have one more question from Line. Could you please explain one more time how this exclusive bid works where you bid into both AFR and mFRR capacity market? Do you choose yourself what market you prefer to be activated in? My concern is about the higher price expected in the AFR market. You do not choose yourself which market you prefer to be activated in. You bid into both markets with different prices. So you can set one price for the AFR market and a different price for the mFRR market. So it is two markets that you bid into with separate prices, but the capacity that you are using in both markets can be the same, or it can be different, but you do not have to choose whether you want to bid in with your capacity in the AFR market or in the mFRR market. You make one bid for the AFR market with one volume and one price, and then a different bid in the mFRR capacity market with a volume and a different price. And then the algorithm runs for the AFR market first. And if your bid is being accepted in this market, the bid will be removed from the mFRR capacity market. If the bid is not accepted in the AFR market due to the prices, then the bid will still be available in the mFRR market, which means you will, with the same capacity, actually have two options to be activated, or two chances to be procured in two different markets. So hopefully your concern about the higher price in the expected AFR market is not a concern, since you can price differently in the two markets. I hope that was enough, Lena. If not, you can write one more time. Thank you. And another question from Paleo. I think it's pronounced, sorry. Does the direct activation requirement that you mentioned mean that you need to always be available for a full hour, so that if activated in the last 15 minutes, you need to be available for the first 15 minutes of the following hour? Not the first 45 minutes for the following hour, only the first 15 minutes. So again, if you're activated in the last quarter, you will be activated for the amount of time in the last quarter that you're being activated in, and also for the first 15 minutes of the next hour. This again means that you can be activated outside the hour that you're actually being procured in the mFRR capacity market in. I hope that made it a bit more clear. Any other questions? I can see still a hand raised, but I don't know if it's an old hand or if you have one additional question. An old hand, I think. Okay. As I said a few times, the mFRR capacity market, or the methodologies for the mFRR capacity market, has used the already approved AFR methodologies as templates, which means that you will know most of the rules from the AFR market. However, the largest difference for these markets are that the mFRR market will already have an energy activation market, whereas the AFR market does not have an energy activation market until we enter into the perpetual market. So for the AFR market, if you are procured in that market, you will need to provide the energy also. However, in the mFRR capacity market, you need to bid into the energy activation market and see if you are being procured in that market as well. So that is the largest difference. I have put in a link into the consultation in this presentation that will be available on the Nordic Balancing Model webpage after this webinar. It is on the NSOE consultation hub. We hope that we will receive a lot of consultation answers on this. And as I said, we expect to submit the methodologies to the NRAs in September. And then there is a maximum of 10-month approval time from the NRAs. And if you don't have any further questions, I think I will close the webinar for today. Thank you very much. Bye.